Hello and welcome to Lunch with Lee. I'm your host Shane Lee. Today on the show, Toby Rudolf, an Australian professional rugby league player playing to date 71 first grade games for the Cronulla Sharks, regarded as one of the great funny men with an open, inclusive nature. Welcome, Toby.
Thank you very much for having me, Shane. I appreciate coming on here.
Mate, good on you, mate. And Liam Knight, an Australian professional rugby league player as well, to date also playing 71 first grade games. With Manly, the Canberra Raiders, and now the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Currently on the comeback from injury, as is Toby. And he's been very open also with his personal battles in the past. Welcome, Liam.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Before we start, and I introduce a third guest, the two Skivvies boys. Anything to do with what's doing
Anyway,
with that?
thanks for having us on, mate. Yeah, we really appreciate the time. We really we are very grateful for the opportunity to come and chat with you. It's good to be here. Anyway, thank you.
We're not going to answer out that one. And our third guest, Andrew Morello, an entrepreneur, investor, author, and winner of the first ever Australian Apprentice. He's the head of business development at The Entourage and absolutely knows fuck all about rugby league. Welcome, Andrew.
That is correct. Thanks, Shane. Thanks for having me.
Mate, where's your skivvy?
Well, I haven't been put into the honorary skivvy club just yet, but we can't talk about it. Shh.
Who's wearing skivvies?
Who's got skivvies on? They're actually capped out. They're a size cap, sorry.
So you three guys are all mates. How did that come about, Andrew?
It's a bit, well, funnily enough, everyone calls me either Morello or Andrew,
Yep.
but I've been renamed by the Rudolf family as Andy. So I was actually through Toby's brother originally.
He prefers Andy. If anyone wants to call me, I think it's only Andy from now on.
I'm actually not allowed to respond to Morello or Andrew when these guys are around. So they've renamed it, which is good because I've got some anonymity if I get myself into trouble when I'm with them. But they say it was Andy, and they're like, "Who's Andy?" It's not me. So,
very nice.
So yes, we've become mates and we've gone on a few adventures, but it's been good having the boys as friends.
And Toby, you're injured at the moment. A week away, hopefully, from being back with the toe. Is it?
Yeah, so it's a week away from getting the cast off, and then I'm in the moon boot for 2 weeks, and the rehab process will start from there. So looking at about 10 to 12 weeks until I'm back, maybe like around 16.
And then, Liam, you've had 9 months off, mate. You must be chomping at the bit. To get
Yeah,
back.
I think it's almost exactly 9 months, and I'm about 1 week away from playing footy again. So it's about a week. Yeah, next week I'll be back.
Fantastic.
And looking the biggest he's ever looked. I think you're growing as we're doing this.
My head must be getting bigger. Yeah.
Or the plant next to you shrinking.
Yeah.
And you two actually, one playing for the Sharks now, one for the Rabbitohs, but you lived together for, what, a year or so?
Yeah, about the worst year and a half of my life.
Really?
But, it was challenging to say the least, but we had some good times, many, many good times, some challenging times, and anything in between.
What was he like as a flatmate, Tobes?
No, he was all right. He was fine until he brought his girlfriend to live with us. That was sort of what ruined the whole relationship there. But up until then, he was great. He was clean. He stole a lot of my food, and I returned the favour. So that was
Very nice,
another
mate.
thing that was going on
I was
there.
his personal, well, not me. I started to clean up after him. Then my girlfriend was an outstanding cleaner. So Toby learned like a good little kid. He could just leave bowls around, and like she hated it so much she'd clean. She'd be angry about it to me, but would clean his shit. So I lost. So he had a cleaner, and I got to cop the brunt of it. So like he won in the end. So he does carry on about it.
But ironically, you keep a very clean home.
Yeah,
now he
So
does.
he
Now he does.
obviously learned from you then.
I think it was like a acting out type phase. Like he wasn't happy about the situation, so as like a internal act out, he's gonna leave stuff around and just throw curveballs.
Because like I'll often just leave shit all around Toby's house, and like he starts cleaning up after me, which is quite impressive.
Very nice.
Yeah, I'm a good boy.
No, you are.
Now it's his own space. He'll clean up after himself.
Can I ask a question? When you were living together, did you actually end up playing against each other?
Yeah, I debuted against him.
His debut
Right.
game was against us.
What
Who
was
won
that
that
like?
game?
Liam won that game.
Oh, okay, so I just forgot. It was a long time ago. Sorry.
Yeah. I versed him again in Magic Round the following year.
Who won that one?
You,
Okay.
how long did you play? How many minutes did you play? Like 10?
I don't
15?
know. I about 30 plus, but we won.
I played about
Yeah.
60.
Yeah. No, I started that game. I played a lot.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I played 40 plus.
Then I didn't ask.
Yeah, it's 2-0. I don't know. He's never beat.
Do you guys want to fight it out?
Long story short, he's never beaten me. I don't know.
Hey, Andrew, let's talk about The Apprentice, mate. Going back to those days, I did a little bit of research, and it said that you weren't that keen to go on that show. You didn't have time to do that.
Correct.
But a good Italian boy, you saved your money early doors, and you went onto a show, and obviously it changed your life.
It did. So it was a great experience. If I don't make a mention, it was actually put onto it by a guy named Spiro Vassiliadis. He's a real estate guy down in Melbourne, and he hit me up and he's like, "Oh, I've nominated you to do this show." And I said, "Mate, I know what it is. I've seen the Donald Trump one. I don't have time for this rubbish." And ended up out of 10,000 people making the top 100 in Victoria, top 100 in Australia, then on the top 12 on the show, and then 12 weeks later, won the 250 grand.
call me old-fashioned, but I wouldn't buy a house from fucking Spiros Vasculatus.
I'll make sure he listens to that. I'll make sure he listens to that.
Fucking
There
lose
we
your
go.
Rolex as well. Now, Liam, you grew up in the Northern Territory. What age did you move to New South Wales? You're pretty young, were you?
Yeah, like I only lived in Alice Springs for a few months, then
Okay.
moved to Sydney, and that's when I started my little journey of moving around, hopping around like a gypsy.
And
then
was rugby league in the family? What brought you to rugby league?
not a single person in my family's
Right.
played rugby league. I started rugby union when I was about 8. I was a pretty angry kid, a lot of energy. So
Okay.
I was living with my auntie at the time, and she thought, like, just chuck me into something that I can get a bit of an outlet. And so I started rugby, then a rugby league. When I moved back to Alice, funnily enough, at about 10. And that's when I started playing rugby league.
Right. And Toby, what about you? Was rugby league in your family? Was it always destined to play the game?
No, not really either. My brother was playing rugby union at the time.
Okay.
And Mum put me into that code thinking it was rugby league. She didn't know the difference between the two. So I ended up on my path there. Then when I was about maybe 13, I dropped union completely and dropped league completely, started focusing on union and was a union player for most of my life growing up. And then when I was 19, I made the change back to league.
Yeah. And Andrew, you always destined to play rugby league.
I think you know the story that I was at Toby's house watching the State of Origin with Toby Rudolf,
Yep.
Liam Knight, Sam and Tom Burgess.
No, Tom and
George and
George.
Tom and George, sorry. There we go, just
Yeah.
to add to it. And it was funny, I saw, who did I see out the other night? I saw Sam out and I thought he was Tom. And then he's like, no, it's Sam. And I'm like, oh, okay. I said, I get you guys confused. He goes, it happens. It's okay. And I texted him the next day to say sorry. But I was probably quite annoying watching the State of Origin with these guys because everything was like, so what's happening now? So what's happening now? So what's happening now?
No, it was fine. It was fine.
Play-by-play commentary by some of the best in the game, which was good. So, but I grew up with AFL, so I'm an Essendon supporter. So
We had a
go
good
the
year this
Dons.
year.
Correct. We're on the right track for once.
As they say in Scotland, don't order your kilt just yet with the
Correct.
Essendon players. Hey, I was going to ask you, Liam, you haven't had 9 months off. You haven't had a drink. You had some issues. You got done DUI, and it happens. And you made a decision. You go one or two ways. I think when it happens,
Yeah.
you can decide to focus and get it right, and you've done that. You were saying just before the podcast how good you feel. So well done.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's almost been 6 months, I think,
Yeah.
for me. Like the first start, I didn't start off too well. I got injured and I just dove into a pit of, the party scene or whatever
Yeah.
else. So that was 3 or 4 months of just spiraling really far down. But yeah, once I made the decision that I have a bit of a hole, I talked to my coach, got into rehab, and I haven't had a drink since. It's been amazing.
And what do you think has been because I know I was saying to my brother Brett when he's a fast bowler, he had a lot of injuries, particularly when he started as a fast bowler. He decided to take 1 month off not drinking. That turned to 3 months, turned to 9 months, turned into a couple of years, and he had the career that he had. But he said it was more about not only the clarity in his head, but it was the way you could train the next day as well. He said often you struggle to train after you've had a bender. We've all been guilty of that.
Yeah,
Probably more than
definitely
most,
been
but
guilty rolling
is that
Monday.
how you're feeling at the moment?
Yeah, mate, it's amazing how much better I feel every day. So I've got some big sessions in the last couple of months in particular with my knee and everything else, getting back into it. And I just the next day I roll up better. Monday morning I'm fresh because I've had a good weekend. I'm
Yeah,
walking,
got
I'm
you.
moving, I continuously move. I don't want to sit around and get stiff and, like I said, roll up after a big weekend and feel like shit. So
No, mate.
it's been massive for me.
Big things, mate, when you want you back on that paddock. I want to ask you, Toby, about I'm really interested. The Sharks are sitting currently 11th. After the way they performed last year, I thought team might have been slightly higher than that. But Craig Fitzgibbon, to me, is it true that he smashes himself with jiu-jitsu on the day of a match so he can actually yell at your players or have the right to yell at you?
Yeah.
Is that true?
That's true, yeah.
Right.
So he always sort of talks about us and how he wished he could be out there and how it kills him not being out there sort of with us going through those wars. So, like you said, the day of the game, he'll have like a 1 hour and a half wrestle session.
Amazing.
He'll have 5-minute rounds with like a 30-second changeover. So he comes in, his neck's all buggered up, his shoulders are cooked, and that way he feels like he has the right to talk to us and tell us what to do on the field and go to war and that sort of stuff. So, bit of a nutcase, my coach. Safe to say. But and like you said as well, sitting 11th at the moment, but. Look, obviously, I think last year we found a good sort of good rhythm, a good way to win games, and we just sort of thought it would pick up from last year, but we haven't really put the work, the effort, the time in, in certain areas. So I think it's starting to show on the field, but big things in 2023 will come back and beat South in the grand final.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you both. Who are you tipping top four? Obviously, you got to pick South and
South's a bit top 4, yeah.
top four. Yeah. Who else is going to be there? Broncos.
Not the Sharks. Probably be lucky to make the 8. I think top 4 Roosters, Souths.
He's getting cheeky.
Only lucky.
They're holding hands now, so it's all right.
Heavy,
There we
real
go.
good. Hey, mate. I think us. I think Penrith will obviously probably about there the 4, and Roosters, and maybe Broncos. I'd say.
Just around that, I was going to ask you, Andrew, about with The Apprentice. You, how old were you when you went on that?
I was 23, so
23.
And I sort of won at 20. I moved to Sydney at 24 and came and worked with Burris.
So did you realise what the opportunity you were given at that stage? It seems like you did, and like I see a lot of sports people, myself included, where you can actually realise what the opportunity is sitting right in front of you. Some miss that. Mike Whitney used to say, you get 3 big opportunities in life. One you don't even notice. The second one, you got to grab it with both hands. The third one, if you don't grab it, your career can pass you by. But you seem to identify the first one pretty quickly.
So what happened is I do a lot of still corporate speaking and I do a lot of youth work and stuff. And Burris is quite good like that. He does quite a bit of speaking still and also volunteers some of his time to obviously with PCYC with the youth and that. And often if we're speaking together, they'll sometimes do a bit of like a master and the apprentice sort of thing. And over the years, people have asked him. They've gone, Mr. Burris, do you think Morello would have gotten where he's gotten in life if it wasn't for winning The Apprentice? And Burris actually puts it eloquently. He says that Morello would have achieved what he's achieved, but it would have just taken longer.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful, obviously, to Mark for the opportunity. But I think there's a lesson in life there, right? Like you've got to make a decision. Like you look at, Liam's a prime example of it right now. Like he's coming back after 9 months, and you can see how serious he's taken his comeback. And he's the fittest he's ever been. He spent the weekend doing altitude training in New Zealand. He texts me, I got him, where are you? He goes, I just touched down in New Zealand. I said, oh, yeah, who you with? What are you doing? And he's like, I'm on my own and I'm just training. He's gone to commit to that, right? So it's like, I think mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and then obviously in their case, more often than me, physically, they commit to it and go, okay, I've got to make the most of this opportunity and give it 110%.
The other thing too I noticed with you guys is that you're both very open. Toby, you've spoken about sexuality in the past, that sort of stuff. And you both wanted to potentially get into the podcast game, which we hope you do. But you're very, very open, and it's almost the opposite. I know I play with a lot of very guarded sportsmen. Even to date, I saw Steve Waugh, who's a mate, at a function only recently, and he's still the guarded Steve Waugh, right? But you guys seem very, very comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've always been an open book my whole life. Sometimes I might have been even guilty of oversharing at times, but
sure.
I've just found that it's sort of what's worked best for me. I'm always, I'm never really guarded, never really. If anyone asks me a question, I'll do my best to answer it. I just sort of feel like if I don't care about what the world thinks of me, then that's sort of the best thing. That's the best way I can be.
It's beautifully put, and Liam, you're very similar too. Like I think often it can come a situation in life that you either can choose to be that way or not. But I think it's maybe Toby's rubbing off on you too, mate, as a mate.
Yeah, 100%. I've probably been guarded throughout different times in my life due to some, past stuff. But I've always been pretty open with it, especially with my mates and those around me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a pretty open book. I'm maybe to my detriment as well. Like, I can overshare and maybe share some secrets that shouldn't be shared and just get a bit carried away. But I feel like for me, if I can share anything about my story that can help anyone out there going through any struggles, especially, like I feel like I owe it to that person, even though I don't know who they are. Like I feel like if I can carry that weight and help someone out, it's
Mate, keep doing it. It's really, really important. I think as men, particularly, I'm a bit older than you guys, but we put our head in the sand. She'll be right attitude, and it's not right. You think you can deal with stuff on your own, and you can't. So keep doing what you're doing. Now I want to ask you. Both the two players on the field,
not the players in life.
not the manager. Not the manager.
Player manager. There we go.
This may be relevant
Weekend
to you
manager.
too.
Yeah.
But your thoughts on concussion, Toby? How are you? It's a real thing, and we're seeing detrimental effects for some guys who have now retired. But what are your thoughts on it, and are we doing enough?
I think we're definitely doing enough.
Good.
Firstly, I think now with the whole Category 1, 11 days out. Back I remember seeing a game 2010 Tigers versus the Roosters, and Maria Hargraves gets shouldered in the face and knocked out cold pretty much, and he keeps playing. So that's how much a game's come in 13 years alone. So I think we are doing enough. As opposed with regards to the effects of it, I know the effects. Like I'm not uneducated on what happens to the head in these contact sports, but. It's honestly, if I'm being blatantly honest, it's a price that I don't really mind paying. This is a sport that I love.
Yep.
this is a way I can set myself up for life, and whatever happens, I'm okay with. Like I said, I'm not ignorant to the fact that it can cause some damage down the track, but like I said, it's just I love this code too much to give it up.
And Liam, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I definitely think we're doing enough. To touch on that, like when they took the decision out of the players' hands recently, I think another massive step forward. I know myself, I was knocked out cold maybe 2019 in a maybe a round match, I think it was. And I was like, to the point of getting carried off in a stretcher all week, I was like, in my head, I was like, I want to play. It doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to lie. The doctors are asking me how I am. I'm saying, I'm fine. Head was throbbing. I didn't say a word because all you want to do is play football. The best thing they did, they take it out of the players' hands. Like maybe I would have been dirty at the time, but it would have probably been the best thing for me. And I think there's just little steps like that, and the protocols and all the awareness around it, and the independent doctors that are involved. I think that we're going really, really big steps forward in the welfare for the
definitely do a lot
players.
more than they were in the past.
Yeah,
I think it's
and like Toby said, we know the risks. Like if you walk out in the field, there's a risk in anything you do in life. I suppose like it's bigger risk, wherever you are. And I'm happy to pay the risk from what I do because I love what I do.
And a bit of selective memory every now and then doesn't go straight.
Exactly, like in life, that's
it comes in handy.
You've used it as an excuse plenty of times.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot, mate. Football, concussions. Like I'd love to have come.
I'm like, mate, you still coming? Oh, mate, I forgot.
Sorry, head knock. Sorry.
I wasn't going to ask you, Andrew, about whether you've actually had concussion before, but then Tom told me what you called your son. What's your son's name?
So he's the great man, Lion Mane Morello, but
Lion Mane, I love
Lion
it.
Mane, and he's got a mane of Goldilocks as well. And instead of it being Mane as in M-A-N-E, it's Lion M-A-I-N as in Lion the Mane Man Morello, Lion the Main Event Morello, born on Mayweather's birthday, 24th of February.
That kind of stuff that happens in America with all the celebrities. They make a certain amount of money. They think they can make up names. It's like Exhibit A right here. The Australian version of the guy that goes, I've got a lot of money. Well, how can I fuck my kid up?
The famous muse Frank Zappa called one of his daughters Moon Zappa. I think one kid was called Zodiac Mind Warp. And the other daughter is now called Motorhead.
That's the best. How about Michael Jackson named his kid Blanket?
Imagine what drugs can do, eh?
Blanket. Is that true? I swear that's true.
It's amazing what you come up with.
Pass me the blanket. Okay.
Pass me the
Tell his
blanket,
kid.
yeah.
That's
hey,
crook.
you guys recently got Andrew a birthday cake. What's the story behind that?
Well, we just I wanted to get something that I know that Morello holds close to his chest, and he's really loves in theory.
Yeah.
So I got him a penis-shaped cake. Full of his other loves of chocolates and marshmallows and all the fun stuff that comes along with it. But the penis was definitely
the best part was we cracked it open in the middle of Bondi Beach. So I'm sure there was plenty of people watching. So there's me cracking open a.
How'd you crack it open? Was it with your face?
I just gave it a nudge with nudge
little,
with my,
like just like old times.
Did
Just
you
like
do it with a spoon or just?
No, but just
just got my whole face in there.
Face and two hands.
I actually took it to the office the next day, ironically. So there we go.
Oh, did you?
It did get shared around. The large penis got shared around.
Are we still talking about the cake?
I love it. Hey, Toby, who were your idols growing up? Sporting idols?
I was a diehard Roosters supporter growing up.
Okay.
So it was Brad Fittler and Anthony Minicello.
Yep.
I turned out to be a front rower, not scoring tries every single day, but that was sort of for me. I'm trying to think of anyone else, but they were the main two for sure.
And Liam, who were your idols growing up, mate?
Funnily enough, it was Darren Lockyer. And then Jared Hayne, and I was start off as a centre, then I started moving in. The slower I got, the older I got.
A bit of Lockyer voice going about you, a little bit husky.
Yeah, maybe I could get a bit croakier. But then it was Sam Burgess, like when I started playing in the middle, and I loved the way he played. That was probably...
I've met Sam a couple of times. He seems to get a real bad rap, that guy. He does a lot behind the scenes, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, it was obviously a bit of a smear campaign at one stage, but he got cleared of everything, and he's a great bloke, one of the most outstanding men I've met. I don't know. I think I could definitely second that as a person, as an individual.
It's the Australian way, but isn't it?
Oh, exactly right. As soon as he come back, the everyone wanted to pile on. But mate, if anyone that knows Sam knows that he's one of the best blokes you'll meet.
Yeah, it's nice to hear. And Andrew, what idols did you have growing up? Were you reading financial books? What were you doing?
It's interesting you do say that, and I've been very, very lucky to befriend a lot of them as well. So when I was very young, I got a chance to do some work with John McGrath. So obviously I had a fairly illustrious property career. I've done over 1,000 transactions over the years, and I'd come up and spend time with John McGrath up at the McGrath's head office at Edgecliff back then, and John's ended up becoming a friend. I've been lucky enough to speak at the Australian Real Estate Agents Conference twice over. So John McGrath and would be Jerry Harvey as well, which I got to meet on The Apprentice. Mark Burris introduced me, and then we've become friends since. So both of them have been great supporters of my charities as well, which is good.
Very good, mate. You got lots of washing machines and dryers in your house.
They have looked after me many a
50
time.
months interest free now.
The problem is all the extended family have caught on to it, and they're like, "Do you reckon you can just ask them to look after us as well?" So there we go.
I ask everyone the same question that comes on Lunch with Lee. I'll ask you first, Toby. A young boy or girl wants to go into the game of rugby league. What advice would you give them?
Always make sure it's the funnest, most enjoyable thing you're doing. But at the same time, if you really do want it, just don't stop working for it.
Yeah.
Always just it's honestly about who wants it the most, but how hard you're willing, the sacrifices you're willing to give up, and talent only gets you so far.
Never
and
true
then,
word spoken.
Yeah, hard work get you there.
And Liam?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think stay consistent, build your habits early, and those habits and consistency they'll come with you the whole career, and then you can just build on that and get better. But once you establish that base and surround yourself with good people, you can build on that, I think.
And Andrew, a young boy or girl wants to go into the world of property or finance. What advice are you giving them?
Or business as well. I think more for business. You know, I get a lot of young people that attend sort of youth events I do, and you sit there now and you hear them talk about entrepreneurialism and business ownership, and it's become quite a common vernacular now. And I always tell them, like, more is lost with indecision than wrong decision, right? So it's like, if this is what you want to do, give it a go, fail fast, evolve, and have another crack.
Good on you, mate. Hey, Toby, you're from German descent too, are you?
Yes.
Well, which
So
side of the family?
mish.
Genau.
Yeah.
Beg your pardon?
No, I don't know.
Neither.
How do you make a German omelette? First, you must capture the kitchen.
That is such a dad joke.
Yeah, that's great.
That is, I'm going to use that online one day. There we go.
Well, we've actually got a bit of German in us as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Any passports getting around or citizenship?
No,
or?
not that much, but
okay.
my dad's mother's side, yeah. So my
There you
grandmother,
go.
yeah. There you go.
You boys fly on your German passports, don't you?
Yeah.
You and his brother, you go to the house, this guy, you got all his
Hey,
passports out. I was
European
like,
passport. European passport.
He's got,
Dad plays
German
well.
passports. Him and his brother, yeah.
Hey, I want to thank you all for coming on Lunch with Lee. We're going to go for a nice little bite to eat now. We're here at the Village in Paddington. We're going downstairs. We've got a fantastic schnitzel or a German schnitzel, or even a bit of steak, some nice fish as well if you've been healthy. But look, good luck for the rest of the season. Get fit. Make sure you two both keep being open and honest. I think it's really, really refreshing. And a lot of people, whether you know them or not, would mean a lot to them. So keep it up. And Andrew, just keep kicking goals, mate.
Keep living the dream.
Learn the rules of rugby league, for Christ's sake.
I've nearly got him now. I've nearly got him. I get schooled down at Shark Park, so, I'll get looked after down there.
Cheers, boys.
Thanks for having us on.
Appreciate it. Well done. That's it for Lunch with Lee this week. A big thank you goes out to our guests, Toby Rudolf, Liam Knight and Andrew Morello. Thanks to the Village in Paddington for having us today and for a fantastic lunch. And thanks to our sponsors, EliteBet. Make sure you hit follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from. And do us a favour, hit 5 stars. And while you're there, if you're passionate, please leave a review. And come check us out on Instagram at I'm at Lunch with Lee. And our official Lunch with Lee photography was done by Felicity Kelly. You can find her on Instagram at Felicity Kelly Portraits. And once again, thanks to our producer, Dan McHugh. And we'll be back soon with some more legends on another cracking episode. We'll see you then.